According to Google, the mother of all updates just dropped and is rolling out over the next 30 days. They've also dropped a ton of new documentation and interviews, so if you want to know what that means and how it's going to affect your site, stay tuned. Welcome to the first major Google update of 2024. Please return your seats to the upright position, put the tray table in its stored position and buckle up because things are about to get a little bumpy. One of the first points of interest is that alongside running the announcement for the March 2024 core update, Google has gone on something of a PR offensive by taking the time to brief journalists and select media outlets about what they're trying to achieve with this update. If you were cynical, you'd maybe think that Google's latest series of faux pas with Gemini images, the domination of Reddit, the volume of spam results increasing, have all made Google a little bit sensitive, and they're trying to get out in front of this update with their own messaging. Or you can be generous and appreciate that Google is committed to what Danny Sullivan has described several times as endeavoring to be more forthcoming about intent. Whatever that means. Either way, Google sharing more of the way they think about changes is objectively a good thing, and they should be applauded for it. And the SEO community has responded with the usual of freak out when a major update has been announced, so it's good to see some things are remaining consistent. Alright, there's a lot to unpack with this update, so let's break it down a little bit. First of all, Google has said this update will roll out progressively in stages over the next months. This means we'll probably get periods of high volatility followed by calm days, then high volatility again, with things sometimes reverting. So setting that expectation gives us the opportunity to use this news video as a public service announcement. Relax, things might be volatile for the next months, and don't make radical changes until the update has completed fully and you've allowed a couple of weeks to pass for everything to settle back down. You're welcome. The next thing worth mentioning is that there is a good argument to be made that this is not one update, but actually 3 different updates running somewhat concurrently. Actually, even 4 if you consider that review updates are now part of the core algorithm. There is the obvious core update, which will undoubtedly tackle a bunch of signal changes that Google thinks will deliver better value to the user. And core updates are hard to anticipate the impact of because not only do they bring new algorithmic features, but they also are likely to be tweaking some old ones. The next update worth mentioning, and the one that is going to be of interest to a lot of our watchers, is the helpful content system. We talked about the ongoing impact of the September 2023 helpful content update in a previous video, link on the top right if you want to watch this, and it would appear that Google has made some pretty significant set of changes to the system overall. But before we get into that, it's important to discuss the ambitions that Google have with this helpful content system and the impact they are making as part of this change. In an interview with Search Engine Land, Elizabeth Tucker, the director of product at Google, said that they are targeting a 40% reduction in unhelpful content with this update. And for the more technical side of things, Google has released a new helpful content FAQ page that gives us a lot more details on how things work and have changed. Let's address the biggest elephant in the room right away. Google took the opportunity to help Danny Sullivan out of the jam around recovery times. If you recall, in the previous video we mentioned before, and you should really watch it, it's a banger, we talked about how Danny said recovery from HCU could take as little as a couple of weeks. And we stand by our call that prior to this update, we didn't see a single verifiable site recovery in nearly 6 months, which is a lot longer than a couple of weeks. And in this new FAQ, Google says there's no set timeline as to how long it might take for potential improvement. And while this bails Danny out, for site owners, it's, as usual, not very clear. If we were to put our tinfoil hat on, we might say that the September issue was bugged and there was no chance for recovery, so this update might potentially fix that. And some of that might potentially fix that angle comes from another significant part of this FAQ. In this new section, Google are going to great lengths to say that the helpful content system impact on the ranking system works primarily at a page level. That is a big change from when they said in 2022 when they first released the helpful content update that it was a site-wide flag. In fact, Google devotes 2 sections to talking about page level impact as opposed to site-wide impact, with the caveat that having a lot of unhelpful content may cause other content on the site to perform badly. Okay, quick speculation, so take it for what it's worth, but we think that the September HCU was a mess, and Google has spent the last 6 months refining the process. This update could be a do-over, and they'd be using the core update to wipe out all the site-wide flags and reevaluate all your content on a more granular page level. And we predict that this could make things a lot better, as page-level updates also affect large sites and even out the playing ground. Some sites that were punished holistically will probably recover a bit, and the pages that were considered unhelpful will essentially stick out by not recovering. So hopefully if that works out in a few weeks, we might have a better idea of what Google is looking for in helpful content finally. Alright, let's shift gears away from the helpful content update and talk about the third pillar of this update, the spam policy changes. I mean, it's no secret that a lot of low-quality results that even a few years ago would have been considered spam have made their way onto the SERPs over the last year. So Google are calling out 3 big targets specifically that they want to address this time. 1, expired domain abuse. 2, scale content abuse, and 3, site reputation abuse. In the blog post they released about this update, they go over each of these targets in a bit of detail. And on this page, they also link out to their overall spam policy page section, which gives more detail on how they want to tackle this. We'll include all the links to these documents in the description of the video if you want to read more. And to give Google credit, this blog post is really well done, starting with expired domain abuse, and this one is quite interesting. Google have always said they had systems in place to deal with this kind of activity, but if you've been awake at all in the last few years, you'll know that buying a site that had expired recently but had a good backlink profile was like a turbocharge for your new website. And with this update, Google is seemingly targeting very specific forms of expired domain spam site. Their documentation says, for example, someone might purchase a domain previously used by a medical site and repurpose that to host low-quality casino-related content, hoping to be successful in search based on the domain's reputation from a previous ownership. So this is the case of Google acknowledging a potentially broader issue, but starting with a very targeted and focused action to make a dent in the worst offenders before potentially moving forward with something a bit broader in future updates. Next on the list is scaled content abuse. Twitter was on fire today with people talking about how this was the end of low-quality AI sites. And I'm not exactly sure that's what they're targeting. But honestly, Google's words on this one are a bit confusing, so I might be wrong. I mean, for sure, some low-quality AI content is going to get caught up in this net. But this sounds like it is being targeted at low-quality programmatic SEO. If you look at the words Google has focused on, you see automation and automatically generated. And this description falls in line with sites that create thousands of pages programmatically. In fact, when you read the fine lines, Google seems to almost go out of their way to say generative AI is not the focus here. My guess is they're trying not to deter the responsible use of AI as they themselves are a major AI company. So, however, this is Google, so we might end up seeing something completely different in the search results. But clearly this is going to be one to watch, because if this lands as Google intended it, it's going to cause a large amount of volatility in the SERPs. And last but not least, let's talk about site reputation abuse. And don't worry, Forbes and Reddit, you're likely safe, as we'll come to see shortly enough. If we're talking plainly here, they're targeting parasite SEO and recently made popular partnerships, which is essentially private parasite SEO agreements. Google says they're targeting sponsored posts, advertising, and other third-party pages that are typically independent of the host site's purpose and produced with little to no oversight or involvement from the host site. The most obvious example of this is Outlook India having affiliate review pages for best VPNs littered with outbound affiliate links from someone who provided the content and paid for them to host the page on their domain. But Google runs to some lengths to point out that not all third-party pages follow this new rule. They point out advertorials and native ads as examples so long as they're relevant to the core audience of the website, and you would imagine that things like guest posts, as long as there is some kind of editorial overview, are safe from this. Google has also made a list of site types that are not considered to be undertaking the site's reputation abuse, and these include news sites that are syndicating the news, so Yahoo News is probably fine, for example, sites designed to allow user-generated content, so yes, Reddit Parasite SEO is probably fine with this update, and a whole bunch of stuff that probably keeps Forbes in the clear as well. So don't worry, when you need to find the best backyard barbecue smoker for 2024, Forbes, CNN, CNET, and Business Insider will still probably here to deliver the best generic reviews produced by their content farms. One interesting point as well is that Google did say they're bringing back their old GSC penalty notifications, both automated and manual, and they will start rolling out soon for people breaking the rules. This gives us the impression they realize they can't catch everything automatically with their algorithms, and they will have to get their hands dirty to keep the SERPs a little bit cleaner. Alright, this is a massive update and there's a lot to digest. So it's going to be interesting to see the cadence of the rollout and the volatility of the SERPs in the coming weeks. Hopefully, this is the beginning of an upward trend for Google after a very rough 2023. They look like they've committed to communicating better and targeting the true bad face actor. But after the debacle of last year, the benefit of the doubt is largely gone, and we'll need to see the literal results before getting too hopeful. What about you? How do you think this update will shake out? And who do you think the winners and losers will be? Let us know your thoughts in the comment below, and again, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button so that we can bring you more news breakdown in the future.